and advanced AI capabilities. The mission has the potential to accelerate scientific discovery across a wide range of fields and ensure that the technologies of the future are developed here in the United States, not in China. So, Director, how is OSTP helping advance the Genesis mission, and what could this initiative mean for America's long-term technological leadership and our competition with China?
Yeah, I think this will be probably one of the most consequential scientific programs in American history, and I don't say that lightly. What we do from OSTP is coordinate the efforts across multiple agencies. When the president launched the initiative, DOE was the first agency to get started with it. They're building the actual platform itself, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we're very thrilled that today at the Genesis Summit, where I was before I came here to this hearing, we were able to announce a $5 billion in new federal commitments, with more than 15 different agencies involved, each with their own grand challenges relating to AI and discovery. And to me, I think that's something amazing to see. You had health-related ones from HHS and NIH. You had very interesting related ones to construction that were done out of Department of Transportation, and so many others. And I think our function at OSTP is to help coordinate those efforts across the USG and make sure that the right programs are being tied into the right programs at DOE.
That's exciting. I have a background in healthcare and also connection with the military, so I'll look at that as a bright future and hopeful that we'll see those changes take place very soon. I have more questions about the research security around the Genesis mission, but my time is expiring, so hopefully I can submit that to you to get your feedback.
Absolutely, and we'll send you a list of all the initiatives. There are great new ones from the VA and also from DOW, I think touch on some of your interests.
I look forward to it. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you.
Representative yields back. I'd like to recognize the Representative Super Mignon from Virginia. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Kratsios, for being here and for coming back. I want to thank you for releasing a report. I think I had to zoom through it this morning. It's pretty lengthy, but I appreciate you putting that work into it. I know a lot of people have asked about different aspects of science and technology, and you have a pretty broad portfolio. I wanted to talk about AI specifically, though. On May 21st, the president was going to put out an executive order on artificial intelligence, and a lot of it was going to be around regulating frontier models, and there was going to be some looked like mandatory standards when it came to AI models, but then that executive order was withdrawn, and then something else came out a while later that talked about voluntary standards. Could you talk about what went into that decision to withdraw that executive order, and why subsequently a less stringent policy was released?
I can't speak to those details, but I am familiar with the executive order that was released, and I think it was something that very clearly articulated the importance of having voluntary commitments from the frontier labs to share their models in advance of release with the U.S. government, and leverage the talents and the skills at KC and at NSA to do evaluations relating to cyber capabilities, and make sure that when the models are put out to the public, the appropriate guardrails and protections are in place.
So were you part of the decision-making to withdraw that initial executive order?
In my role at the White House, I'm part of the broader decision-making process on AI policy.
And do you think these safety requirements should be mandatory, or do you think they should stay voluntary?
The president's executive order called for voluntary commitments, and I think at this time that's the appropriate policy action.
And so what's to prevent someone from coming up with an AI model that could be dangerous, and they decide not to comply, and they decide to just unleash it, and it creates a lot of havoc?
I think as you and this committee knows very well, the number of players that have the resources to train a frontier model with the capabilities that would pose a risk are quite limited and quite few. And we're able to get voluntary commitments from all of those that have that capability.
And the final executive order that went out, it cut the government's review time from 90 days to 30 days. Was there a reason for that?
The final one did say 30 days, and we believe that that is sufficient time to be able to work voluntarily with the companies. Again, none of these companies are required to share their models with the USG, but I think what we have seen is that the industry is interested in having the expertise of KC and NSA weigh in and help them do an even better job in building their guardrails.
Great, and I'm going to switch subjects on chips. We have heard about how auto manufacturers are increasingly relying on advanced chips, but obviously so does a lot of other things, a lot of other components. And one concern I think people are starting to have is the sourcing of chips, because right now we want people to source them from the United States and U.S. chip makers. We passed the CHIPS Act, but there's a lot of companies who are now clamoring to try to source them from suppliers from China, like CXMT, YMTC, and I would love to know the administration's position on whether you think we should allow American companies to source from these entities.
Well, our Trump administration policies are bringing back advanced chip manufacturing here in the United States. I think you may have seen that this month we were able to secure another $100 billion commitment from TSMC for further semiconductor manufacturing investments in the U.S., bringing their total to $265 billion. Micron themselves just broke ground on a $100 billion New York semiconductor manufacturing.
I know that.
So,
I'm trying to ask, do you think it's okay for American companies to buy from CXMT or YMTC? I want to know the administration's position on that.
I think the most important thing is we build domestic capacity to be able to, in the long term, provide and have the chips developed here in the United States that can meet the needs of our American companies.
I didn't get a yes or no on that. Could you give us at least where the administration is right now on sourcing that? Because they've been listed as a significant threat to U.S. national security. And so I would assume the answer would be no right now, right? But do you think that might change in the future?
I think the most important thing is we have to build capacity here. We obviously don't want to be doing business with anyone that's on the entity list, and that's something that is clear and in law.
I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields. I'd like to recognize the representative from Georgia, Dr. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Glad to have you here today. I was curious, when we talk about research and actually keeping people from investing in waste, fraud, and abuse, espionage, having foreign actors come to the United States, learn, and then apply what they learn here against us when they go back to their own countries. How do we find that balance between investing in a workforce and development that's truly homegrown and protected versus collaborating with countries that actually can benefit us? What do you do to balance that?